Good day to all of our viewers, and welcome to Conversations with AARP in the Virgin Islands. Today, we have with us some very special guests from Legal Services of the Virgin Islands. We have Attorney Kimberly Berry and Miss Amy Griles. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
having us.
Yeah, and so Attorney Berry, tell us what you do at Legal Services of the Virgin Islands.
If I can just start with a brief overview of who we are. Legal Services of the Virgin Islands is a nonprofit law firm. We do civil work. We've been in existence for 51 years, and our mission is to assist those living in financial poverty towards self-sufficiency. We have two offices, one on St. Thomas that serves St. Thomas and St. John, and one on St. Croix. And I am the managing attorney of the St. Croix office.
Great. And Ms. Griles, Amy, tell us what you do at Legal Services of the Virgin Islands and which island are you located on?
I am based in St. Croix, but we have our volunteer coordinator who is based in St. Thomas. I am the Senior Medicare Patrol Project Director for the Virgin Islands.
Perfect. And I'm Troy Deshabir Schuster. I'm the State Director of AARP in the Virgin Islands. Here, there's no state, we're a territory, but the official AARP title is State Director. But yes, I'm the Director of AARP in the Virgin Islands, and I coordinate all of the activities of AARP in St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. And we do a lot of community outreach and advocacy here. Hence, that's why we wanted to have Legal Services of the Virgin Islands as we do our community outreach, because we know that you provide very important services, not only for our older population, but for people of all ages, seemingly. So tell us, Kimberly, Attorney Berry, what does Legal Services of the Virgin Islands do? Can you give us some more detail of how you benefit not only the more senior population, but the younger population as well, from your perspective?
Of course, thank you. So we represent people who qualify for our services because they are free. So we have eligibility requirements. And we do all types of civil work. So family law, including custody, divorce, guardianships. We do probate cases, landlord-tenant, employment, foreclosure, any type of civil case that someone comes to us with. We hopefully can provide either representation, a brief service like drafting a document, or advice for those cases.
Great. And, I found it interesting that you mentioned guardianship. And as I mentioned earlier, AARP, we do a lot of advocacy. We are an advocacy agency, a social change organization. And here in the Virgin Islands, we've been doing a lot of work regarding guardianship, revising the guardianship code of the Virgin Islands. And you may have heard of a huge bill that we got passed and enacted called UAGAPSHA. And it's a very interesting one that came out of the Uniform Law Commission of the United States, where it allows for guardianship to cross borders, geographic borders. So up until that point, like if somebody had guardianship of an individual here in the Virgin Islands and they took them to, let's say, Miami, Florida, which is quite typical for healthcare, as soon as they landed there, they would lose guardianship. And if they needed to establish guardianship there, they would have to go through the whole legal process in Florida. But now, as the Uniform Law Commission has been pushing this act, UAGAPSHA, it's a long acronym, across the United States, guardianship can now cross borders. And we had a very interesting case here in the Virgin Islands. Of course, I can't give any names or any details, but there was this lady living here in St. Croix who had an adult child who was mentally ill, and she was his legal guardian. She took him to the U.S. mainland, to Alabama for healthcare. And of course, when she arrived there, this is before the passage of UAGAPSHA here, when she arrived there, she lost guardianship. And so her adult offspring signed himself out and took to the streets, and she could not get him back. And so that was sort of like the impetus for us to get UAGAPSHA passed and enacted here. So I'm sure you can relate with all of this, Attorney Berry, and I'm so glad that you're offering those kinds of services here as far as guardianship is concerned.
Yeah, thank you so much for your work on that, because we tend to be a transient population and often have to leave the territory for healthcare. And so that's very important that that guardianship can travel um, with the people so that you don't lose that. Talking about that situation that you just described, it's crucial.
Yeah, and next year we have an even larger guardianship bill that came out of the Uniform Law Commission as well. And by the way, I work closely with Attorney Tom Bolt on St. Thomas, who is one of our Uniform Law Commissioners. And this very large piece of legislation allows for protected individuals to have a certain say in who their guardian becomes. Because again, I'm sure you can relate with this. Sometimes, like let's say maybe a teenager who needs a guardian for whatever reason, and that guardian is being imposed by the court or by Human Services or some other agency here, but they don't always know the whole background. Let's say, for instance, that potential or prospective guardian may be very abusive to that teenager. And up to this point, right now, that teenager has almost no say. So this other piece of legislation we'll be working on next year allows for that. So stay tuned. We're doing a lot of very interesting things regarding guardianship here.
So the court on St. Croix does appoint an attorney to represent the ward, so that they do have a say and that there's someone objective looking at the situation to see if that guardian is appropriate.
Oh, well, that's good. At least St. Croix, the Virgin Islands, is a bit proactive, because in other parts of the United States, it doesn't happen that way. You get a guardian assigned and that's it.
Correct.
Yeah. And so, Amy, tell us what you do at Legal Services of the Virgin Islands and the wonderful services of SMP. Go into a little detail of what SMP is. What does SMP stand for?
So SMP stands for the Senior Medicare Patrol. It is a program offered through ACL and the Department of Human and Health Services on the mainland. So the program is offered in all territories, including Guam, Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and all 50 states. The basis of our program is to detect and prevent Medicare fraud in the territory. So that's my responsibility here.
Okay. And so do you find that here in the Virgin Islands, there's a lot of Medicare fraud? Are people reporting that? What do you find the response is to the work that you do here?
Well, we do a lot of outreach and presentations, and every presentation I do when I speak to retirees and seniors, they always say that during the presentation, they're always talking about, I think that happened to me. I think my doctor is overcharging me or the medical practice is overcharging me, but they're afraid or they don't know what the next step is to report it. Or so that's where I come in. I serve as an advocate for them because a lot of people don't want to be a whistleblower. You know what I mean? So my job is just to advocate for them and report the instances of fraud that they experience.
And so when somebody comes to you and reports that they believe that Medicare is being defrauded in some way, what are the next steps? Do you report that directly to Medicare, CMS? What happens next?
The first step is, of course, they would call or come in, and we basically would review. I would review their medical summary notice, which is their medical statement, with them to determine if, in fact, they had some case of fraud, and we would contact CMS, and then we would do a report with the OHIC.
And report with what? What is that organization?
Is I can't remember I know it's OHIC, but it's the Office of Investigation for ACL.
ACL. And what is ACL? These acronyms, we need to be a little more precise. I know that they're hard to remember all of. What does ACL do? What is ACL about?
They're the Federal Association for Community Living.
Okay.
And so our program, the Medicare Patrol, is housed under them. So we get funding through ACL. And ACL is under Health and Human Services on the national level.
Okay. Yes, I understand. Yes, so it's a very complex.
Yeah. Medicare is very complex in itself. And then there's all these acronyms and, other agencies that kind of fall under a different agency.
Okay. And Attorney Berry, we're here in the midst of this pandemic. It seems like the world is upside down in a variety of ways. Are you finding that during this period, people are utilizing the services of legal services of the Virgin Islands more? Is there a greater need? Has it leveled off? Have people stopped contacting you? Where do you stand now during the pandemic?
Well, I feel like here in the territory, we were doing so well, and then we kind of fell off the rails in this pandemic. So what we have done in legal services is close our offices to the public. However, we have not stopped working. So to speak to an attorney here, you do need an appointment. We're still keeping appointments. We're making appointments. We're just doing them over the phone. We're having people send their documents either by taking a picture and texting it or by emailing their documents. I mean, we're only having people come into the office for emergency situations when they need to sign a document right away, get it notarized. We have notaries here who can do that. So we still are doing our intake interviews every week. The demand hasn't changed, I don't think, one way or the other. We're still getting plenty of calls. We always have a short wait list to get the opportunity to talk to an attorney. But we are helping in every way that we can, considering that we're trying to distance physically and remain safe during this period.
And how many attorneys are working at Legal Services of the Virgin Islands?
So we're a very small organization. We have 2 staff attorneys, managing attorney in this office, and the same setup in St. Thomas.
Okay. Yeah, I imagine there is a lot of work. I've heard over the years that this is quite a litigious community in which we live here in the Virgin Islands. A lot of different lawsuits and claims and so forth going on about a variety of issues. So I'm sure you all are kept very busy.
Yes, we are. We have to assess for merit and decide what we can and cannot do. We are always hoping for more funding to hire more staff and do more of the work that's needed. But, we set our priorities based on what the community needs and what they're asking for, and then we go from there.
Nice. And I've heard that you work closely with Disability Rights Center of the Virgin Islands. Can you tell us a little more about what you do with Disability Rights Center, what kinds of disabilities you work with, what kind of claims in general you work with as far as disabled persons are concerned?
So we do referrals back and forth. Some of the greater impact cases for people who have disabilities in terms of accessing proper health care and services in the territory, we refer to them. We discussed guardianship cases earlier. They will refer those to us, as well as things that people need that are a little easier for us to do, a little faster, don't involve court involvement, such as drafting powers of attorney, which we can do pretty quickly for people who have the capacity but need assistance in handling their affairs. We'll do those. And the guardianships you mentioned, as well as deeds, transfers, those type of things. Many of our seniors are looking for end-of-life planning. And so they want to transfer deeds to family members. They want to draft wills. They need powers of attorney, those type of things that we will handle.
You know, and talking about end of life planning, by the way, AARP has done a lot of work in this area also. Again, bringing a lot of the acts of the Uniform Law Commission to the Virgin Islands and having them enacted here. For instance, a major one that we got through over a year ago is the Real Property Transfer on Death Act. You may be familiar with that one. So it makes it really easy for somebody who owns property to avoid the property falling into probate, and avoid helping them to avoid the cost of developing a trust. Because as you know, a trust can be very expensive to develop. And so with this Real Property Transfer and Death Act, an individual can go to the Recorder of Deeds, execute a real property transfer on death deed. Really simple, pretty much just a one-page document. And they can assign their son, Johnny, to be the heir of their property when they die. And as soon as they die, the property transfers automatically without having to go through probate or any of those kinds of proceedings. Also, this act gives a very special feature in that if you decide later on that you don't want Johnny to inherit your property, you can easily take Johnny's name off and put Jane's name on, right? Um, Whereas the way it was prior to that, if you put Johnny's name on and you don't like Johnny anymore, Johnny would have to give permission for you to take his name off. Furthermore, it also allows the person to sell their property, mortgage their property, gives the owner full control of their property up until death, and again helps them to avoid the expense of going through developing a trust or later on putting the property through probate. So I'm sure you've heard of that, right? The Real Property Transfer and Death Act.
Yeah, we do tons of those, and it's such an important tool, as you described. Despite the fact that we are attorneys, we want people to stay out of court as much as possible. So a document that would allow for the transfer of property without having to file a probate case is an excellent tool for people.
Well, great. Yeah. So it's interesting. I'm even learning here through this interview how the advocacy of AARP is helping you in your work and helping so many people here in the Virgin Islands. That's really wonderful to learn.
Most definitely, most definitely. In there, I know that you all had a part in doing something very similar with vehicle titles.
Yes.
So that people don't have to open a probate case to be able to register their parent or spouse's vehicle that's worth $800. They can handle that through the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, so that doesn't have to go into probate as well. We don't do those, that goes through BMV. But thank you for your work on that.
Yeah, you're welcome. That's the transfer of vehicle transfer upon death act.
Yeah.
That's right. Also, we've done work with making sure that bank accounts and other financial instruments can transfer without having to be placed into a trust or without probate.
Yeah, if they're under a certain amount, yes.
That's right. And also the fiduciary access to digital assets, which is an interesting one. Many times people have their email account and they get their credit card statements to their email account and all kinds of other important information. And then when they die, their heirs, their next of kin, cannot access their email account and don't know what's going on. So, and in Facebook, for instance, some people have these Facebook accounts, and after they pass on, the Facebook account is just there, and nobody could gain access to remove the Facebook account, etc. And so, we did the Fiduciary Access to Digital Assets Act. So we've been doing a lot of work, and there's still more to be done. So stay tuned for all of that. And so, Amy, tell us some more about Medicare fraud. Can you give us without divulging any confidential information, but some more concrete examples of Medicare fraud that you've come across here in the Virgin Islands?
One of the biggest ones here in the territory and nationwide is billing for services not rendered. So, for instance, you go to the doctor, you go to Dr. Brown for a cold. So you might just need, some sinus medication or something, but they bill you for not just your general appointment, but for cancer screening and additional blood work and for instruments like a brace or things like that. And but like when you get your statement, you went to Dr. Brown on June 5th because you had a cold, like I said, but they're billing you once you get your statement 2 months down the line, you're being billed for all these additional services that you did not have or did not ask for.
Right. And can you tell us a little bit, Attorney Berry, about the cost of services and the eligibility of services when people come to legal services in the Virgin Islands?
Yes, so I think as I mentioned before, it's free, so we don't charge clients any money. We receive private donations and grants from private organizations and from the government to offer services. And to be eligible, you have to be within 125% of the national poverty guidelines. So for a household of 3 people, that's approximately $27,000. But there are certain exceptions. Most notably, if you are 60 years of age or older, you can have income higher than that. But what we encourage is for us to make the determination whether you're eligible or not. So call us. We'll do an assessment to figure out if we can help you because, like I said, there are ways that you may qualify for our services. So we ask you to make that call and we'll determine whether or not we can assist.
And for people who cannot reach your office, who do not have transportation or may be disabled and cannot reach, how do you reach them?
Get my mask, get my keys, and get in the car and go out to them. So we do home visits, we do hospital visits, not so much right now because it's very difficult to get into the hospital because of COVID. Although we have gotten clearance to go in for one particular circumstance. But if someone is homebound and they absolutely cannot get to us, we will try to figure out a way to make sure that they can receive the services that they need. We recently got a disaster grant that has allowed us to purchase vehicles that are not here yet, but it's kind of a mobile command vehicle that we plan to take to different parts of the island. So for here on St. Croix, because we're located in Christiansted, for folks who are in the Frederiksted area that have difficulty making it over here, we will be taking the vehicle. It's an office out there so that we can see people there. So stay tuned for when that vehicle arrives and we'll be able to do that. And we plan to do that during disaster and during clear skies as well.
Yeah, that's a wonderful service because as we know, public transportation is not the best. It's not very complete here in the Virgin Islands, and so many people have a hard time getting around and have to rely on relatives or friends for transportation. And sometimes they may be taking action against those same relatives or friends. Uh, do you, by any chance, do you get cases of elder abuse, of financial abuse, and so forth?
We do. So we handle domestic violence cases. So generally, it is a relative, unfortunately, that's taking advantage, either physically or financially, over an individual. So we will represent that person in doing what they need to do to try to curb that exploitation or that abuse.
Yeah, as we mentioned on our show last week, we recently got a bill enacted here regarding elder financial abuse, lowering the threshold to $500. Now, $500 and up is considered a felony. And next year, we plan to do a very comprehensive bill, which will take into account not only elder financial abuse, but physical abuse, sexual abuse, neglect, and so forth. So stay tuned for that, and hopefully people here in the Virgin Islands who are being abused or neglected will take advantage of that, and also the services that you offer.
Would like for Amy to get an opportunity. I know we need to wrap up soon.
Yeah.
To plug SMP and the need for volunteers, because we would love people to join us in our work in the SMP project.
Yes, Amy, please tell us about what you need for volunteers.
So basically, SMP, our mission is to educate individuals and advocate for them. And we do that by doing outreach in the local community with a team of volunteers. So we're always on the hunt for volunteers. And volunteering has many different phases. It's not necessarily just, I know some people don't like to do presentations, but we have many different roles that a volunteer can play, from doing presentations or making phone calls or just advocating for a friend. Because like we were having a discussion yesterday, like with the population, a lot of people aren't able to read or are not confident in their reading level. So we train volunteers to help read statements and, report the fraud to us directly. So if anyone is interested in volunteering, you can give me a call. Our number here at LSVI in St. Croix is 340-718-2626, or our toll-free number is 1-877-784-0228.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad that you're asking for volunteers and providing that kind of service, because even at AARP in the Virgin Islands, when our office was open to the public before the pandemic, we will be back in office, but not until the pandemic lightens up. So many people would come and bring their Medicare statements and so forth, and they weren't able to understand it. They would say, "Can you read it for us? Can you tell us what this says?"
Because,
So,
like we mentioned before, just because Medicare in itself is so complicated that it takes a lot of deciphering. It's like a puzzle. So it does help to have someone there to help explain it to you. And that's what we do. That's what we train our volunteers to do.
wonderful. And so again, how can people find more information about legal services of the Virgin Islands? Tell us your web address and also telephone number again.
So our phone number is 340-718-2626. Our website is lsvilaw.org.
Excellent.
And we're on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes,
And you're on
Facebook and Instagram.
The number is 774-6720.
Right. And what is the name of your Facebook page one more time?
LSVI Law, and it's the same on Instagram. So it's Instagram.com/LSVI Law, Facebook.com LSVI Law.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for being with us today and for providing all of this important information. We hope to see you again in one of our programs. I know we just scratched the surface today, but there's so much more we can talk about regarding elder abuse and guardianship and Medicare fraud, etc. So we hope you will join us again sometime in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Our pleasure. Have a great day now.
You too.
You too. Take care.